Alright, good morning, guys. It is February 2nd, sometime in the morning, early morning. Um, wrote wrote some wrote some ideas down, and this has to do with my cravings. I think it's been like almost a week of being back on juice after going through that couple weeks of eating solids as well as eating cooked. Um, and because of how I said going back into juicing, I wanted to be more aware. I wanted to actually face my shit. I wanted to actually process these cravings and observe them, and dig as deep as I can get into them. Any Not even cravings for food, but emotions. Um, yeah, any emotions, anything. Just aware of every thought that comes through my mind, not letting any thought go by unchecked, and just checking myself in every moment and my state of being and my intentions and yeah, just so that's a goal I had set for myself, is just to be highly aware going back into the juice, um, and not gaslighting myself, um, trying to gaslighting myself to not feel the discomfort, distracting myself by not having to feel the discomfort, and yeah, just facing everything, facing, accepting my reality, accepting my thought process, accepting how I feel exactly the way for what it is, and and not judging it in the sense of disregarding it or anything, or having a or having that toxic positivity or gaslighting to just change my thought process, to yeah. So this writing I called "Food Cannot Sustain What It Cannot Produce." I've been trying to sit with my cravings and urges for food. I can't help but immediately start reasoning with them. From what I've experienced, the craving is an immediate approach that shows up out of nowhere. It's a thought. It'll just come up, and boom, there it is. I won't be dealing with it at all, and then boom, immediately it just comes out of nowhere, and there it is. So, though recently, with my morning practice of observing my instincts and my urges and just my ego characters overall, I've noticed now when this craving for food comes, I don't respond with that I don't respond with, "Oh, that tastes good." When a recipe, when a certain food item pops in my head, before I would always go immediately, my instinct, my response to that would be, "Oh, that tastes good. Oh, I like that. Oh," and just start imagining the flavors and tasting it and all that. Um, so so yeah, recently, for what I've noticed recently, a craving will a craving for food will come up, and I haven't been responding. Like, my instinct hasn't been, "Oh, that tastes good." It's like I am no longer reacting by instincts. Rather, because of my increased awareness from the practice of observing, I don't let any thoughts slide by unchecked or questioned. Rather, rather than reacting by thoughts, I observe each one. It's like I am separating myself from the character I used to live by, and now becoming an observer, a critical thinker, who is not the characters who run this avatar. Um, so yeah, it feels like, no longer am I just living in programs, but now because I've become aware of the programs, I've stepped back and I'm just observing the programs run on their own, you know? And so the character who is ego driven, selfish, living from survival, dependent on vices, whether that be physical things or behavioral addictions. You know, now now because I just started practicing observing, it's not my now because I just started practice observing, it's not my response every time. Hmm. So I guess what I'm saying there is now because I've practiced observing, I'm not living in my instincts. I'm not living reactively, you know. Um, I'm simply observing. It's like I'm becoming aware of the reactor too. Like that reaction might still be coming about, but it's coming about because it's a program, it's an instinct, and but I'm not acting out on that reaction. I'm more observing how my body it has been programmed to react, the instincts that have been um, that have that I've created for myself. It's like I have more common sense because cravings for bean burritos, shepherd's pie, soups, stews, like chili, Mexican food, sandwiches, anything cooked, I will immediately view that as toxic. Whereas before, my instinct, my reaction went as soon as a cooked food recipe popped up in my head, I would immediately go, oh, that tastes good. And then immediately from that, I would already picture putting it in my mouth. But now I'm just like, I, I immediately view it as toxic. Because before I would view it as toxic, but it would already be after after saying, "Oh, that tastes good," and picturing the food in my mind and holding it in my hand and taking a bite and what it tastes like, what it smells like I wouldn't say it's toxic until after that. Now the first thing the my instant reaction is, "Well, that's toxic." You know, just coming from common sense, just coming from what I know, just coming from my experiences. I immediately go, "Well, that's toxic." Um, I won't even say that that tastes good. When thoughts of cooked food arise, I ask why. What will I get out of this? Am I seeking pleasure? Am I seeking enjoyment? Am I seeking comfort from this? The pleasure of it only lasts. So the so now getting into my thought process now, and I believe this is coming from not only my experiences over the last month, but um, me on the days I'm off work. As soon as I wake up, I immediately go into observing and not jumping back into my programming, not living out of survival, not living out of my survival instincts and my egoic reactions, not ego driven. I'm sitting and I'm observing what my body has been built to drive towards, what my mind has been built to drive towards as soon as I wake up back into this reality. So this is what runs through my mind. I'll ask those questions. I go, and I'll just start reasoning. Like I immediately start reasoning with it all. The pleasure of it only lasts during the act of eating it. After that, after that last bite, all I am left with is the consequences, which last for hours to even days. See, before when cooked food was my natural, when eating whatever was just my natural diet, um, I would only feel the effects of it for hours. But now, having cleaned out my system, I can witness a whole nother level of toxicity to it because when I was on juice for 35 days and then I ate that cooked meal, um, I could feel it constipated. I could feel the density of it in me for the next 3 days, and I felt like I was still shitting it out for the next 5 days after eating it that on that one day. So because I was numb to that awareness, I never brought myself to that level awareness before, because it was like that was all I knew. uh, I never knew what that level of state of being of health was like until I did that 35-day juice cleanse, cleaned out my system a little bit. I'm not saying I cleaned out fully, definitely not, but cleaned it out more than it ever has been cleaned out. And so I was able to feel the effects of the toxicity that I was putting in to a higher extent, you know. Um, so yeah, that's why I said, um, after that last bite. So the enjoyment of consuming only lasts as you're in the act of eating. As soon as you're done, okay, yeah, you might have that satiated belly type deal and feel relaxed. Okay, the enjoyment lasts a little longer than after just the act of eating. But really, you're eating because or well, I would eat because I love the taste. And see, as soon as I'd be done eating, I would be like, I want more taste, I want more flavor. And so that's what I was seeking a lot of. So after that last bite, all I am left with is the consequences, which last for hours to even days. So, I'm indulging in an activity where the pleasure only lasts for 30 minutes, but the consequences last for hours and days. There is no benefit. This is superfluous, therefore toxic to my body. It's unnecessary to the body. The body doesn't need food, especially toxic, cooked, chemically filled food, cooked food, processed food, ultra processed food, artificial food, packaged food. It doesn't need any of that. And so therefore it is superfluous. Therefore it is unnecessary. It's not needed. The body does not need food to sustain it. So this is where I start getting a little scientific with it. Our bodies are built of cells, right? Our bodies are built of our bodies are composed of trillions upon trillions of cells. Cells make up everything of our body, our tissue, everything, the blood, everything, our eyes, brain, everything. Which these cells, so what are cells made of? Let's see, because the cells are what gives us life, you know. Which these cells are comprised of molecules. So what I mean by the cells give us life is this body can only survive because of its cells, and the energy and the electricity it gives out, right? The functions of the cells determine your health of the body, determine your livelihood of your body, how alive you feel and how deadened you feel, you know. Um, so the cells, so it's not that the cells give the spirit life. The spirit is more like, what I'm thinking is the awareness, the the one that you would say is humane, has empathy. Um, um, it is sovereign. It's its own creativity, right? Um, So yeah, but our bodies are built of cells, which these cells are comprised of molecules, which molecules are comprised of atoms, which atoms are comprised of electrons, which electrons are nothing more than whirling centers of force. It's just fucking energy. I mean, that's what atoms are. Um, Electrons do not eat, atoms do not eat, molecules do not eat, cells do not eat. The body being composed of these self-existent, self-sustaining cells are all as all as are all other objects that are composed of atoms, as the body cells are. With this being said, man should not have no more need for food than a stone or a star, as these are also constituted of atoms, the same as our body cells. So the same thing that makes any physical object down to its microscopic level, as far down, so they get down to they get down to the atoms, right? And then they've tried going into the atoms and tried to identify that, but when they tried to identify anything deeper than an atom, all it is just energy. It's just frequencies. It's just energy. Like they can't even there's nothing else to see other than it's just force. It's just force of energy and frequency and vibration. Like that's all it is. And 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 so the same thing, the same building blocks to build this phone, to build this table here, it has the same force, the same atoms which this table is comprised of. Our body, our cells are comprised of the same thing. This, like if you took a microscope and you zoomed into this table, see right now this table, it looks still to me. It looks completely sedentary, like not moving, not vibrating, nothing. But you take a microscope and you go up to it, this table is going, you know. So it's almost like there's life in that, or maybe not life as in consciousness, life as in the spirit, right? But there's energy in that. That's energy, and that same energy, that same thing goes for us. You take a microscope, like I said here, you see the cell. Then you break the cell down, you go further than the cell, and there's the molecule. You go further than the molecule, and then there's the atoms. You go further into the atoms, and it's just electrons of positive and negative um, ions, which you go into those, and it's just electrons. It's just, which those are electrons, and it's just force. It's just energy. It's just, like I said, it's frequencies, it's vibration. That's all it is. And so that's what I'm saying here. The body being composed of these existent, self-sustaining cells, as are all other objects that are composed of atoms, as the body's cells are. With this being said, man should have no more need for food than a stone or a star, as these are also, as a stone and a star are also constituted of atoms, the same as our body cells are. Food does not build cells nor build the body. It doesn't. New cells are not produced by food, but by the division of pre-existent cells. So that's the thing. Our food isn't the only thing the only thing about our food is it gives us energy, where it doesn't give us sustenance, it doesn't give us nourishment, and it gives us artificial energy. It gives us stimulation like a drug. That's all it gives us. It doesn't give us pure energy. It doesn't give us, and it does give us building blocks to our body. Our body will use that food to build our tissues, to build our bones, because cells are constantly dying. Now see, because we've diminished our body's capabilities of being self-sustaining and have toxified it over and over and over again, our bodies, we only produce so much stem cells now. And because we eat so much food, our body has, because it's not getting true nourishment, there's a misalignment from here to here. There's a complete dissonance within. This is why we die so early, 70 years old, 80 years old, even earlier than that. And but that's why we become so crippled by those ages. That's why, look at people now, they're already becoming crippled by 20, 30 years old. Back hurting, body breaking, bones aching, joint stiffness. It's because our bodies, our cells is having to find something, because like I said, we're not producing as much stem cells. So we're using what's coming in, and our bodies are using the toxicity to be the building blocks of our bones, of our cells, of our tissues. not of our cells, but of our tissues and our cartilage and all that. And so it's just like if you were to eat clean food, your body would be using that to as building blocks, but our body is using, so it's creating disease. It's creating issues within our body because we're using chemicals. We're using toxicity to build our bodies. Because like I said, there's every minute there's like hundreds of thousands of cells dying and that need to be replaced. And so yeah, we just we're giving our bodies the wrong thing. So the cell does not come from food and does not depend on food. It doesn't come from food. The body is not the product of food. The body wasn't built on food. The growth of the develop of the human in the womb did not come from food. The growth of the human baby to an adult did not come from food. The body is not the product of food and should not depend on food. Food cannot sustain what it cannot produce. Therefore, saying because food did not produce this body, it cannot sustain this body. What produced this body is needed to sustain this body, which is energy, electricity, hydration, and the body can produce all that on its own when it's knocked back into alignment. It does it now, but at a very minuscule level. But that's why we have to heal. That's why we have to detach. That's why we have to cleanse and detox, so that way we can get our body, mind, and spirit back in alignment. And who knows how our operation will be at that time. So yeah, food cannot sustain what it cannot produce. Therefore, the body is not the product of food, and it is actually not sustained by food. I don't need to repeat all of this. And that's the thing. I wanted to read this. It's a little something I wrote a long time ago, like 6 months ago, just to give you an idea of what I mean by the body is not a product of food. So right here, the human body is a mass of trillions of cells which originated from one parent cell. That's how this whole structure came about, is from one parent cell. From the collision of a sperm and an egg, and it made that one fucking parent cell. And so get this, all organs and structures that constitute the body as a whole, the brain, your organs, including your skin, your bones, including your teeth, your blood, your cartilage, all organs and all structures of the body come from the original parent cell, that one original parent cell, by a process of cell division and subdivision. And this is actually stated in all anatomy textbooks today, though now they have worded it strangely. They have obfuscated it. Something they could have explained in 10 words, they now explain in 1,000 words, because they have to confuse the fuck out of you. They have to push their narrative. So they tell you the truth in those 1,000 words, but they have to tell you so much superfluous bullshit of it to also see why their narrative fits in with it. It's like yeah. So they obfuscate. They construe the whole thing. They what's the word? Yeah, I can't think of it. But yeah, because the truth is so simple, it can be said in 10 words. But because it's like they have to give the truth, but at the same time they can obfuscate it in a way where they're telling the truth, but you just have to have the eyes to see it. You just have to have the eyes to see it, or the ears to hear it. But yeah. But yeah, they add so much to the fact of it. They're like, yeah, we all come from, all the organ structures come from one parent cell, but blah 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 blah, and this is why you need food in order for the baby to develop, in order for the human body to develop, and this and that. See, so they had to throw food in there somewhere, um, and because that is part of their business, that is part of making you a consumer, that is part of you willfully participating in the enslavement, that is part of you being dependent on the authorities and business to make you your food for your sustenance and your nourishment, so that's what they did. They said, yeah, you come from one parent cell, but in order for that parent cell, well, they don't even say in order for that parent cell to develop. They just give an opinion. They're like, but food, because food gives certain nutrients, and food gives um, certain nutrients and vitamins and minerals, food could actually help um, in the development of the newborn. So it's not that their words are so, it's so manipulative. It is like master architect type stuff, um, master manipulation, because it's like they don't lie, but they throw in their opinion, but they hammer down on their opinion so hard that it makes it seem like that it's a fact. So they're like, yeah, you come from one parent cell, but our opinion, what we theorize, is that because food has all this nutrients and and vitamins and minerals, and it has protein, which, because the protein, your body builds proteins as a building block to the body. Maybe eating external protein can add to the construction of the body, and so you see, they construe, they totally fabricate their own the there's the truth of it all. So yeah, so yes, this is all stated in the anatomy textbooks, but it's just where it could have just been one chapter of a few pages that gave the entire truth, and that's all. There is 20 chapters added to it, 1,000 pages added to it, and and yeah, it's nuts. So I'll read it again. The human body is a mass of trillions of cells which originated from one parent cell. All organs and structures that constitute the body as a whole, brain, skin, bones, teeth, blood, cartilage, come from the original parent cell by a process of cell division and subdivision. This shows that the parent cell, which is not made from extraneous material like a house, right? A house can't build itself. It needs materials around it to build it. This shows that the parent cell, which is not made from extraneous material like a house, is endowed with infinite intelligence. And cells prove this by their work that they possess. Yeah, cells prove this by their work on building these structures and these organs, that they possess a prevision of the future structure and its purpose. You know, yeah. So that one parent cell, it has the intelligence, it has the knowing of what it's got to do to create this physical body. It's got the information, it's got the intelligence, it's got the knowledge, it's got the capability to structure what it needs to structure. The brain, the eyes, the organs, the tissue, the cartilage, the bones, everything. It already knows. It has the prevision. It doesn't need. So that's pretty magnificent. Um, and and what I read from in here is what I'll read, because I actually took what I typed on my computer and wrote it down in here to give an idea, and just an in-depth of what I go, because really I don't say all of this when I'm dealing with a craving. I generalize it. I pick like a couple things out of there that help me come to the conclusion quicker. I don't fucking read an entire list of things in order for me to remember what I know. No. Um, but yeah, so having said all this, that our bodies our body is a mass of a trillion cells that all come from one parent cell. The trillions of cells in our body all came from that one parent cell that subdivided and divided into producing these other cells. Our bodies are built of cells, which these cells are composed of molecules, which are composed of atoms, which are composed of electrons, which are nothing more than whirling centers of force in the ether. Electrons do not eat, atoms do not eat, molecules do not eat, cells do not eat. So the body being composed of these self-existent, self-sustaining cells, as are all other objects, everything you see like material and don't see like the air, all these other objects which has these cells that are composed of atoms as the body cells are. Let me read that again. Electrons, atoms, molecules, cells, all of these do not eat. So the body being composed of these self-existent, self-sustaining cells, as are all other objects that are composed of atoms, just as the body cells are. With this being said, man should have no more need for food than a stone or a star, as these are also constituted of atoms, the same as our body cells are. Cells duplicate only by being in an environment that allows that process to happen. Food does not build cells, nor does it build the body. Food does not build cells, nor does it build the body. New cells, stem cells, all that, are not produced by food, but by the division of pre-existent cells. And, and it's just the body's intelligence. It knows it needs to continue producing cells because cells are continuing to die off. I think only because of the environment we live in. Like just looking, Bruce Lipton, check out his cells experiment, where he would take a cell from bone cartilage, he would take a cell from a tissue, and he would put that cell into a petri dish of a healthy solution, so therefore being a healthy environment, and that cell would proliferate. It would not stop growing, and it would not die. It would not die until something were to make it die, until a toxin was introduced, until a poison was introduced. But cells, they continue. The cell itself is just a ball of energy, a ball of electricity. It is self-regulating, self-sustaining. It is autonomous. So the cell, it does not die. The only reason why it dies is because of toxicity, because of poison. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we have no clue what we're actually supposed to be, what we would actually look like if we were raised in a safe space, if we were raised in truth, fact, and reality, if we were raised in a humane environment, in a free, liberating environment. We have no fucking clue. We have been we have yeah. I mean, it's just nuts. Because so Bruce Lipton, he does experiments with cells. He's done it all the way from 1970s. I mean, this shit gets pushed down. It does not want to be known. But see, that's the other thing, because his information has been coming out for years now, but that's the thing. The controllers, they don't care what you know. They care about what you do. Because see, people will know all these things. I mean, there's so much knowledge out here now. There's so much truth being said. There's so much um, revealing happening of the mystical of our body and how our bodies work and this and how our minds work, this and that. But like I said, the controllers don't care what you know. It's about what you do, because people are so highly addicted, because people are so in line with this society and the structures of these systems. They know that they know people aren't gonna take it to that extent, of actually healing. Um, yeah, but yeah, they don't care what you know. They'll give you everything. They'll tell you everything. But they'll tell you everything that is a rabbit hole that doesn't really matter. Um, because there's a lot of facts out there. Yes, our brain can do these amazing things, but it won't be able to go to such an extent. And this is what they don't tell you. They don't tell you to heal your childhood trauma and abuse. They don't tell you that you're in an enslavement and that you're in abusive systems which have forced you into survival, which means you've been under stress every day of your life since you were born. You've been reacting out of survival every single day since you were born. And they don't tell you how you had to push your authenticity and your spirit down, and that you're out of your natural survival mechanism that the brain goes under, builds characters, builds alters in order to be able to function in these societies, in these environments. And they don't tell you that. They don't tell you, hey, your job is very toxic and you're actually participating in an enslavement, which is causing a lot of cognitive dissonance. And after your job and you're doing all these cope the co- what you're actually doing when you go home and you get on your TV and you indulge on snacks and you distract yourself with video games and this and that are all just coping mechanisms due to living in toxic environments. And see, they don't tell you that. It's very simple, the healing. But they have to give you all this knowledge, all this superfluous knowledge of quantum physics, of just all these things, all these modalities, all these physical modalities. Look what herbs can do. Look what yoga can do. Look what cold plunging can do. Look what walking barefoot in nature can do. Look what having crystals and these trinkets can do. Look, be a tarot reader. Look, do a palm readings. Like all these things which do nothing for healing. Yes, they can create revelations if you're, but the point is that healing is so fucking simple. The and and that's a thing. Yeah, so they give you everything else that leads you away from the simplicity. They want you on the endless pursuit of superfluous and endless knowledge. They want you on the pursuit of learning every single modality. They want you on the pursuit of trying to become a master that takes 10 years of one modality like Qigong or Tai Chi, and it takes 10 years in order to even become a master, where, see, all that's just bullshit. It's just bullshit, and it's just a band-aid to the actual issues within. It's just a band-aid. It's just focusing on the symptoms, but focusing on the root issue, like I said, is facing the childhood trauma and abuse, facing your reality and the situation in which you're in exactly for what it is. Honesty, um, facing the cognitive dissonance, facing the slavery programming, coming to terms with the conditioned beliefs and that you've based your entire life off of. Yeah, all these things. And and realizing that you're participating in an enslavement, that you're addicted to the copes that you've acquired of learning how to survive in these toxic systems. You know, so yeah, um, the cells. The cell does not come from food and does not depend on food. The body is not the product of food and should not depend on food. Food cannot sustain what it cannot produce. Therefore, the body is not the product of food and is actually not sustained by food. And yes, scientists have said that it is more difficult to explain why man should eat than to show why man should never eat, because it's so complicated when you get into all the theories. It's just so fucking complicated. And to say why you do need to eat, it's like I said, Scientists have said that it is more difficult to explain why man should eat than why he should never eat. And why? Because it is that simple, knowing that cells are self-existent and self-sustaining as long as in an environment which allows it to proliferate. Even in a mildly toxic environment, our cells continue to duplicate. If not, then that person would die. Yeah, our bodies are just in constant survival. It's just nuts to me how we've been under stress and survival and have been intentionally toxifying, poisoning ourselves with chemicals, metals, I mean all kinds of things. And our body can survive to 70, 80, 90 years old, always living out of survival every day, every moment of the day, living out of survival, living in cognitive dissonance, living by abusive programming, slavery programming, and limiting conditioned beliefs. Like, and we can still live to 70, 80, 90 years old. It's like, man, what are we when we're healed? What age do we even die? Like, what even happens? What even happens if we're able to live up to 100 years in these toxic ass bodies and these toxic ass minds and all this dissonance and dysfunction and under constant stress? I mean, what happens when we're healed? What happens when we're dealing with none of that? What happens when we come back into our sovereignty and living authentic? It's like, and we're not addicted. We don't have dependencies on external sources for our vitality. We're not looking outside of ourselves for nourishment, for safety, for um for sustenance. Like, what happens? And like I said, with Bruce Lipton, his experimentation on cells and taking a cell from a muscle, taking a cell from a tissue, taking a cell from a bone, taking a cell from blood, puts in a petri dish, and it just fucking goes. It goes until he has to put something to stop it, which is a poison. And that's the thing where, yeah, yeah. So you know, we are so far away from our true nature that's why I don't theorize. I don't try to fantasize what this healing is going to lead to for me. I just am witnessing the life changing um, changes that are happening already, and the clarity that's coming and everything that's coming with this healing, and the power it's bringing me. So it's just taking a day, moment by moment, not even day by day, moment by moment, and making sure I'm aligning my thoughts, words, and actions with true fact and reality in every single moment, every single decision I'm making. You know, is this decision aligning me towards? Is this decision I'm making in alignment with healing, and which is aligning me towards back to my authenticity, my true nature, my true essence? Or is this decision feeding into my ego, into my enslavement, into my. So that's the thing. Our decisions are very important because it's either taking you this way or this way. It's either aligning you with truth, or it's aligning you with fantasy. Um, yeah, there's so much good stuff I wrote in this. I'm thinking of doing a video later on it. So coming back to this, um, so I don't need to repeat all that knowledge, all that scientific stuff, all that whole script I just wrote. I don't need to repeat all of this to remind myself, as I already know it. I already know it. So for me, I generalize it. I for instance, when I have a craving, I go, well, is eating healthy? I go, well, cells are a ball of electricity. a ball of energy, which is self-sustaining, self-regulating, and it's completely autonomous. Um, Cells thrive when in a healthy environment. You know, our bodies, our bones, our cartilage, our skin, blood, organs, even the brain, all come from that process of cell division and subdivision from the one original parent cell, which was endowed with major intelligence, as that parent cell possessed that prevision of the future structure and its purpose. So you see, like, I take it back to that. What is food going to do for me? Um, in the sense of a healthy, like, what are the benefits of it? What is it actually doing? What is the good that it's doing for me? And is it even doing anything for me? Like, my body doesn't need food. I just need to create a healthier environment for my cells to operate at a um, operate at a higher function. And so I just go, well, what are the cells? Because our cells are the ones that need to eat to give us energy, to give us life. But what are cells really? You know, the only reason why our cells are ripped open is because we force them to be ripped open since day one of being force fed and taught to eat, 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 eat all the fucking time. That's the only reason why they're forced open. You know, and which goes back into how they obfuscate the truth in their textbooks, in their anatomy textbooks. They sell that our cells are open, that way they can take in nutrients, but it's a total lie. It's not a lie because they are open, but because of forcing them open, because of teaching them to be left open, because of because of our toxic lifestyle. But they don't say that. They don't say, well, they're open because of our toxic lifestyle, and in order to they don't talk about the cell's original state, which is autonomous, self-sustaining, and self-regulating. See, it's they say it's self-regulating and self-sustaining, or self-regulating by, but you have to give it food in order for it to regulate. You know what I'm saying? It's just so much construing with the words. So all this just brings me back to common sense. Oh yeah, so like I said, so I'll be like, well, what's the cell? Well, the cell broken down is a molecule, and molecule broken down is atoms, and atoms broken down is just balls of electricity and energy and frequency and vibration, and and then it's just like, well, how did this whole thing come about? And I mean, we started from one parent cell. This whole thing came from cell division and subdivision of that one parent cell who had the prevision, who had that infinite intelligence of the prevision on how to create this structure. So, I mean, and food didn't take any part in that, so, um, so yeah, it's I remind myself of the common sense. I remind myself of the facts. So all this just brings me back to common sense, which will then lead me to asking those questions. See, so that's usually actually before, like I said, the craving will come, and like I said, recently I've just been labeling it as, well, that's toxic, or seeing it for exactly for what it is, and just saying, oh, well, that's toxic, and um, and then I'll go, well, I'll be like, well, why do I even want to eat? Why do I want to eat? Is eating even necessary right now? And it's like, what would eating even do for me? And then that's where I go, well, I mean, what eats? What is why do we eat? Oh, to get energy, right? To create, to give us life, to keep us operating optimally, supposedly, right? But how? They say our cells eat, but really our cells don't need external food. Cells create their own electricity. Cells create their own, energy. And as you let a cell mature, the stronger it functions, the more it gives out. So it's like, so I just run it through the simplicity of all that, and then after all that, so I go, well, so what's really going on here? If my body doesn't actually need this, what is going on? Am I dealing with detox symptoms? Am I going through withdrawal symptoms? Am I going through a craving? Am I seeking pleasure? Am I seeking enjoyment out of this? Am I looking for a distraction? What feelings made this craving come about? Was I anxious? Did I have high anxiety about anything? Was it from boredom? Was it from worry? Was it from lack? Am I seeking comfort from the food? Like what am I looking to get from from this from this consumption of food? What am I looking to get out of it? What am I really looking for? Not what not what science tells me that I'm, you know, I'm not like, because I can go, oh well, I'm doing it for nourishment. I'm doing it for vitamins and minerals. You know, that's my program thinking. That's the belief that's been put into me. That's why I need to get into my critical thinking and observing, like, what the fuck is actually going on? Why am I actually? Because see, well, yeah. So yeah, I don't think I am running away from processing the feelings the cravings bring. I am more investigating. It's like I have switched my perspective because of my experiences over the last month and how those experiences brought me to a more solidified and determined yes on my path that I am on. That's what I said. After this experimentation and these experiences I went through this last month, it's like it solidified what I need to do. It made me more determined. It solidified that yes, no, this is what the fuck I need to do. So no longer am I like, should I be doing this or should I do this or, no, I'm no longer having that confusion. It's like I know. Now I know. I'm no longer still contemplating, still like, well, I'm no longer stuck in believing and wondering. I know now. I know. So that yes has become solidified, and therefore I've become much more determined. It's like I crushed the belief of needing cooked food for survival. I crushed the belief of needing cooked food for sustenance. I don't. So I went from viewing recipes of cooked food as healthy and nourishing, when in reality, one is not healthier, but just less deadlier. Just like, just like, just because one didn't abuse their kids to the rate that they were abused by their parents, yet still abused their kids, does not mean they didn't abuse or traumatize their kids. That does not mean, yeah, just just because someone didn't abuse their kids to the rate that they were abused, which is something my mom likes to say. She likes to be like, "Well, y'all know, y'all's life was cake compared to mine," but she still abused and traumatized the fuck out of us. But she wants to talk about how great of a parent she is because she's not as bad of a parent as her mom was. So, just because you weren't as bad as your mom or your parent, just because you weren't as extreme as them, yet you still abused and traumatized your kids, does not mean that you didn't abuse or traumatize your kids, or that you were a good parent for not being as extreme as your parents were. Abuse is abuse, and that's final. You know. So yeah, like that's what I was saying about cooked food. No matter if any cooked food, you can cook spaghetti squash, toxic. You can cook potatoes, toxic. You can cook a vegan plant-based meal, toxic. Now, is it less toxic than a burger from McDonald's? Of course, but that doesn't make it healthy. That doesn't make it a healthy option. Instead, it's just less, it's not as deadly, it's not as poisonous. It's different from putting a poison in your body that doesn't kill you in 30 minutes rather than putting a poison in your body that kills you in 7 seconds. It doesn't make it better. It's just your options are shit. Those are both shitty options. Um, but yeah, just because, yeah, well, I'm sure I made sense there. So yeah, I think I've just broke through programming. I've demolished a conditioned belief by my own self-experimentation, using the faculties of my mind, being honest about the reality and truth of things, as well as acquiring the knowledge of how our cells work. Which I didn't even need that knowledge. Just as simple as, because I feel like if we were away from all the noise, if we were away from all the demands, if we were away from all the toxicity and we were put in a safe environment where nothing even had to be taught, like we would be much more in tune with ourselves because we don't have all the distractions of worry, lack, fear, desire of the future, of you know all these things that this society brings. If we were away from all that, we would be able to tell how these things affect us, that we eat, that we watch, that we, all these things that we do. Um, so it's not even that you need, acquiring the knowledge is good, but not in the sense of reading book after book after book after book after book after book. You'll learn more through just being real and honest with yourself in this moment, right here, right now, how you feel, and with each decision you make, what the decisions you're making, how they're making you feel, what they're doing to you. You know, you get more. The knowledge is within the self experimentation, but with honesty. You have to self experiment with honesty. If you're, you know, you gotta become aware of the justifications, the excuses, because all those play their part. All I'm dealing with now is the habit of doing it for years and my emotional ties to it. So yeah, it's like I feel like I've totally just demolished the belief now. I've demolished the programming. Now all I'm dealing with is the parasites that ask for it. I'm dealing with the mucoid plaque of. I'm dealing with um, the poor connection of brain and body, brain and gut. So um, I'm still dealing with the habit of doing it for so many years. So I still have that slight instinct that wants to do it. So it's constantly going against that instinct. Um, it's constantly not feeding into those instincts and those habits. Because I'm creating a life to where those things will soon become obsolete, you know. So, I'm not fighting them. I'm sitting, I'm observing them, I'm processing them, and I'm reasoning with them. Therefore, and then I'm choosing the better option. Therefore, those things eventually become obsolete. I'm no longer feeding them. I'm no longer creating a neural network, because see, that's what repetition does. Repetition, in order to remember, in order to finally know something, we do repetition because it creates a connection in our brain of that. So like, so yeah. Now when it comes to eating raw food, so I just talked about my processing with cooked food, but now when it comes to eating raw food like avocados, mushrooms, bell peppers, cucumber soaked in lime, these things which can be eaten raw. There's no cooking, there's no ingredients added, there's no seasonings and all this. Um, oh, um, I keep getting messages. I've been making a lot of connections with people. Um, so as soon as now when it comes to eating raw food, my mind makes it an immediate yes, let's do it, because I view them as healthy. It's like, okay, yes, they're healthy, but this kind of goes back with the cooked food. Yes, they're a healthier option, but are they healthy? How am I viewing this? So, but they're only for experience. I need to break the dependency. I need to break the perspective that they're nourishment, that they're sustenance to the body, that they're, in other words, needed to thrive, needed to survive, the body needs it. No, no, not at all. they're fine to eat, but not to indulge on. I'd say have it 1 or 2 times a year, but not once or twice a week, as that is too much consumption for a system that does not need it in the first place. So see, because people are like, oh well, maybe we're here just to experience it, and it's like you're addicted if you have to have it so often, especially when it's not needed in the in the process of your body. Hold on. Yeah, so that's why I say, because I believe we're supposed to be in a fasted state. That is our natural state of being, is a fasted state for the majority of our lives, for 99% of the time of our lives, for 99.9% of the time of our lives. Like, food should not be seen, should not be that something that brings us life or brings us such great enjoyment. Like, I really, with how advanced we are, if in our healed state, I mean, who knows what we really do? Who knows what we're really drawn to? Who knows what brings us true, like, enjoyment in life, and gratification for life, or gratitude for life, like, we don't know. We have no clue. We can't we can't just look at it, the options we've been living our entire life, and just saying, well, because I enjoy this, maybe this is what I'll enjoy in my healed state. Like, you don't know. Like, food has been forced onto us to a point where yeah, we're just so addicted, and we just can't imagine our lives without it. We really cannot imagine our lives without it, because it's such a dopamine hit type of experience. It's such a fucking dope, you know? We just can't experience our life without it. We think life would be meaningless without it. And it's just like, that's just how broken we are. But yeah, like I said, so my thing with the raw food, it's crazy, yeah. So immediately that thought will come, and immediately I'll go, yes, let's do it. Like, without even saying, like, me saying, yeah, let's do it. I agree. I agree with y'all. No, it's like, it's an instinct. And because it's healthy food, and it's raw and all this, I'm at the point in my healing journey where I cannot eat solid food. I have to clean out my system, because the solid food just takes the body away from focusing on the root issues, because now there's density coming in, now there's obstruction coming in. And see, with the juice just flows right through. The juice is more of a medicine. It's more of a detox cleanser. It's more of a cleanser. It's more of, yeah. Whereas food, eating an avocado, it brings too much density, which makes the direction the body's going into, which is healing, now has to focus. Majority of the members who were focused on healing, 70% of them have to go over here and now focus on the obstruction at hand, the toxicity at hand, the thing that needs to be prioritized in order to kick it out, so that it can come back and put all its attention and focus on the root issue. So, and that's what I saw when I there for the last few weeks. One of the weeks I just ate raw, and I noticed that. I was like, well, I feel good. Well, I feel good off of eating this raw food. Like, it's not draining me, but I still felt heavy, and I felt it bloat me, and so, yeah, I see with where I'm at. Before I can eat raw food just the way it is ever again, I have to clean out my system first. I have to, which even then, when I clean out the mucoid plaque and that 25 plus pound cesspool of junk that's just sitting in my intestines and around my organs, After that, after I get that out of the way, see, now there's a deeper healing that I need to do, which is why I'm going to start dry fasting. And that dry fasting is now going to help put me in the state of autophagy where um, where my body's renewing, and it's going to start taking away the building blocks of the toxicity I've used of eating cooked food. I'm just going to generalize it into junk food, unnecessary food, um, because my body's been using that to build my body, to build my tissues and my muscles and my bones. Um, Now all that's going to be the deeper healing. Adding that dry fasting, now it's going to be targeting the chemicals and the toxins that are ingrained into my, that are etched into my bones and into my brain and into my tissue and into my organs, and those things are going to start. So like the juice, I don't think the juice can do that. I think the juice just gets the blockages, and the blockages that are in the veins, the blockages that are in the passageways, the toxicity just sitting around the organs and such. It helps get all that out. But now to actually get into the organs and get into the bones and get into the tissues, it there needs to be nothing coming in the body, you know. So after I get that next level of cleansing done, then I'm gonna be fasting. So I'm not even gonna, and when I fast, when I refeed on my fasting, it's gonna be on juice. I'm not I'm because if I put solids in there, that's gonna take me way far away from um, being able to bring that healing focus back on the the rejuvenation of my organs, my bones, and my tissues. Um, so so yeah, and then after that, after I get through that dry fasting healing stage, I doubt I'm even gonna want to eat, because that's gonna break my addiction to hunger and thirst. Because I'm gonna start off with a few hours of dry fasting, and then I'm going to increase the duration of my fast longer and longer and longer, and just play with the whole drinking juice and fasting. And I want to get to where I'm fasting more days of the week than I am drinking juice. And because the duration of those dry fasts have to be prolonged in order to do a deeper healing. So once I start getting used to that lifestyle, it's like that's going to be my lifestyle, is being in a dry fasted state the majority of the week, and so it's like, will I even want food, even if it's raw, even if it's juice after that? Like, once my body starts operating at such a high level to where it produces my own hydration, it produces my own sustenance, because it got all the obstruction out of the way, it got all of the poisons out of the body. Um, Now it's back to its natural state. Now it's back to where it it's self-sustaining, it's autonomous. So there's not going to be even any craving, So yeah, that's where I'm at. Um, that's where I'm heading towards as well. And yeah, just want to share how I'm dealing with these um, cravings. I'm really trying to sit with them, observe them, process them, and deal with them all the way down to the root and overcome them. And um, totally demolish them. Yeah. And it's happening. You know, because I've been more aware. It's like um, I've really just been so much more aware of every moment, and just, as like, I'm serious. Every thought that goes through my head, I'm just questioning it. I'm checking it. Nothing goes by without being unchecked, without being questioned. So or even being acknowledged. So, yeah. Yep. Enjoy the video.